It's Nancy May and Doing Best with Elder Care Success. And this is what I'm calling the emergency response flip. The reason why is we're getting ready for an impending storm. There's a big hurricane that is looming as a direct hit for us, and I'm concerned about others who might be in the area. We know how to prepare, believe me, because of the howtosurvive911.com book that I wrote. And yes, I still have my notes in there for a variety of reasons. But I wanted to share some of the key tips that you need to worry about in taking care of aging parents when in fact you might not be there, or even if you're just around the block. Especially when there's a hurricane, a huge storm that's expected, be it snow, rain, fire, whatever it is, knowing how to prepare for an emergency is critical. Not just for you, but for them, or vice versa, and your entire family. So here are a few tips to get you going. Actually, these are the key tips to get you going. The first is to have a communication plan so that you know how to connect with your parent or a loved one, especially if they're long distance. You want to make sure that they're safe and that they're well cared for, and that your heart is always sort of kept in your chest during that times. Believe me, my folks lived in Florida for a long time, and I was up north in Connecticut. We got hit with hurricanes more than they did, but this time it's us. The second is to make sure that all their medications are prepared in what I call a go bag. Now, a go bag is really all the key equipment that they need. We're talking medical, any necessary life supporting devices that could be oxygen tanks. But more important, the easiest one to pick up and go out the door is one with all your medication in it and their medication, plus instructions of what it is and when to take it. Just because you know doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to remember when under stress. If they do have life-supporting equipment, like an oxygen tank or something else that requires electricity to run and operate it, make sure that they actually have a way to either back it up so that it can run without that. Make sure that all their equipment that they might be using, like an oxygen tank, maybe an wheelie walker or an electric mobility device, that there's a battery backup for them that's strong enough that they can use it. Now, there's lots of equipment that can be swapped out for that they might use regularly that does require a plug-in or a charge, but ask your Medicare or Medicaid provider and your insurance provider for extra help on that. They can make sure that they get what they need well before a disaster happens. The other is to let their local utility company know that they have such equipment and may need extra help if the power goes out. They should be first in line for power restoration, providing they're not like way out in the boondocks living somewhere. But in that case, I suggest you get them to a shelter where they won't have to worry about that. Then there's the file of life. Now, the file of life is something that we recommend in the book as well. And it's not a plug for the book. It's really a plug to save your lives and to save those that you love and care for as well. But the file of life is simply a piece of paper that has all their medical conditions on it, including what happened when, who to contact, insurance providers, everything that can make your life easier and an emergency responder's life easier. You can get one of those at howtosurvive911.com. I'll put a link in the episode notes as well. But seriously, you don't need an app for that. Paper works better and it's faster to get the information off. Trust me, many emergency responders have said the same thing, and even those in the ER. If mom or dad use a cane or a wheelie walker or something else, make sure that they're going to be safe using it in the dark or in a dimly lit situation. If that's the case, you want to make sure that they have the support that they need to either use it or that there's going to be some way that they can get around and not get hurt. The last thing you want is for somebody to fall in a dimly lit environment and then end up with a broken hip, a broken arm, a leg, a crack on the head, stitches, and bleeding out. Oof, not good. Not good for them and certainly not good for you. Water. Now, that's kind of a no-brainer. We all know that they need water, and water is the liquid of life, I guess you could say. But filling bathtubs. Fill bathtubs to the brim or close to the brim so it's not in the overflow stage, and put a cup, or not a cup, but a cap or two of bleach in there to make sure that it stays safe and clean. Now, this is not drinking water. This is for washing, for cleaning, for other sanitary purposes. But it's important to make sure that if they do have a bathtub, that bathtub is filled to the brim. If you can't get water in the tub, then make sure that there's gallons of water that you have on tap and easy to access. Then, of course, there is the ubiquitous flashlights and extra lights and batteries that you're going to need, and any other kind of light that you can use that doesn't require electricity, except candles. Please, whatever you do not let them use a candle, and you shouldn't be using one either. Make sure that you have enough batteries of the right kind and the right size in a quickly accessible location, because they're not going to last forever. And as much as we want them to, chances are you might run out of battery power somewhere along the lines if, in fact, the storm or the outages last for long periods of time. Keep flashlights by the bedside at all times. That's important, especially at night. And keep flashlights also by each entry, because at least you know if you can't see, you can feel around where the door is and your flashlight approximately where it might be on the floor, hopefully not because you don't want to create a tripping hazard, but on a counter next to that entryway. Now, there's another device I'll recommend, which I'll put in the notes below in a link, that's a little sort of electric eye that you can get at Harbor Freight or even probably Walmart, but I'll get a couple of locations for you or links to get some for you. And those I would put right at the foot of the bed or at any entry doorway, because it's an electric eye type of trip thing. And what's going to happen, trip thing, technical term, but what's going to happen is as you walk by it, a light will go on. It's not bright, but it's enough to see where you're going to be going in the dark. Then, key thing, as I said before, how to call 911 and survive a medical emergency. In this case, it's how to call 911, not just to survive a medical emergency, but to survive a storm disaster. Not everybody knows how to dial 911, believe it or not. It's not just dialing a couple of numbers, which is important, but it's also knowing how to talk to a dispatcher. First of all, the number of dispatchers that we actually have on call these days is really reduced. We're down to about 80% of where we really should be, and that's key. Yes, AI is taking over a little bit, which scares me concerning especially emergencies because you don't know what's going to happen, but talking to a calm voice is going to keep you in a state of knowing what to do is important. Chances are, in this case, you're going to be put on hold, especially when there are others who need to call for help. Whatever you do not hang up. They will get to you. Worst case scenario, have somebody else call from another line. But that's also going to clog up lines, so you try not to do that too. When you do get a hold of a dispatcher and they have time for you, state your emergency. Is it medical? Is it fire? Or is it police related? Now, chances are we're talking about storms right now. If you're calling 911, it may be a medical situation. Hopefully it's not, and hopefully you don't have to call 911. But knowing how to tell them exactly what you need and when you need it and where you are is critical. If you're calling from a cell phone, tell them exactly where you are, because chances are your cell phone has a different area code to where you are located. In that case, you want to say exactly where you are. I'm in the state of Florida. I'm in the county of ABC. This is my town, and this is my street address. Let them know the details, one right after the other. And if you're not at a street address where you actually can see a number, give them a description of where the nearest intersection is. They're going to need that as well. Also, you want to tell them who needs help. Is it you, a parent, a child, or anybody else? Understanding the level and priority of critical care is going to be key. If they're in a life-threatening situation, you also want to tell them what the state of care of the person is, what you've done to help them, and are they in a life-threatening situation? Hopefully, that's not the case. But if it is, you want to let them know immediately. That's way at the top of the list. When you finally got things organized and you know that the emergency responders are on their way to you, don't hang up. You want to ask what their ETA is. That's estimated time of arrival. Make sure that they can quickly get to the front door. If there are things blocking the front door or from a driveway or wherever they might be entering, please get somebody to remove it for you so that they don't get hurt. Too many responders get hurt seriously and are not able to help others going forward because of the way that we've treated our homes or our front entryways and not made it safe for them. Make sure the front door is open or ajar so that they can come in and they don't have to ask for permission to come in. If you are someplace else in the house or in your apartment or wherever it is that is not close to that front door, please let them know where you are. You can yell, "I'm in the back room. Come get me. I'm helping mom so she doesn't get into a worse situation." Whatever it is, but yell it loud so they can hear you. And keep calling for them so that they know where to follow your voice, especially if it's dark in that area. That's going to help them. They'll have flashlights for sure, but they don't know your environment and they don't know where you are. Those are the basic points to help with 911 in emergency situations in a storm. Here are some extra things that you should all know about. The first is to understand that there's something called an elder care locator, and they have a lot of resources for you. Every state has an emergency management and emergency response team or department. You want to sign your parents up to make sure that they know that they are frail and they will need help in case of an emergency. The number for that on a federal level is 1-800-677-1116. I will put the contact link for that phone number and a website resource for you to go there too. You want to make sure your parents are signed up for what's also called a local special needs registry. That helps your responders know where all the elderly people are and at what level of care they are too. They'll know whether they should evacuate them first or do they need to evacuate others first. Mom and dad may not want to evacuate in a storm, but please, if that's the case, make sure that you encourage them to do so. They want to be in a safe place, ideally, maybe not always the most comfortable, but in a shelter that's there designed for families and kids and elderly people. They will know how to take care of them. And chances are there might be a dog or cat there too, which can be kind of fun. Let's also register your parents for FEMA and make sure that they get the help they need if you're not able to get there yourself. Those are the key tips on how to deal with emergencies, especially when you have to call 911 or they're not prepared or you're not prepared for an emergency situation. There's a lot more you can do in getting down into the details, but these are the overriding things that you need to do to make sure that everybody's safe in a disaster situation. Please make sure that you have a communication link set up with your parents, yourself, and even your kids. When I was growing up, our whole community used to do that. And twice a year, the alarms and the bells went off for the entire community. And it was our goal to meet at a particular location in our yard so that we all knew that everybody was safe in a disaster. I suggest you do the same thing too when you're not in a stressful situation, expecting a storm to come in, whether it be hurricane, tornado, whatever it is, fire, or even a massive snowstorm. I hope these tips help you, and I know they've helped me and our family over the years, and they've helped many others. So that's it for another tip with Doing Your Best with Elder Care Success here on YouTube. Please, if you do not have it, this is not a plug specifically for anything else other than to say you need to get this book. We wrote it with the support of caregivers, with aides, with other emergency responders, with trainers of medical responders as well, and with a few attorneys along the way. It's going to help you keep peace of mind. It may even save your life or somebody else's life. So that's my gift to you. We'll give you the link in the show notes as well. And that's it. Stay tuned for another episode real soon. On a lighter note, when the sun is shining and we don't have to worry about a storm. Bye-bye.